I'm going to rank camera gear from best to worst. We're going to look at what is the most important thing to spend money on to the worst. Now, of course, I know what you're saying. Scott, I shoot ducks swimming across a pond. Great. I'm going to assume you need everything. If you don't need everything, just delete the bits you don't need. It'll work pretty much the same. So, the most important top tier, god tier bit of equipment that you should be spending the majority of your money on. Go on, pause it now, guess in the comments, let's see who gets it right. And before anyone gets me in this going, well, I don't agree with that, I have tested this relentlessly over nearly 20 years as a photographer. And yes, I shoot studio work, I know, but I didn't always. For many years, I shot location. For many years, I shot in very dark, moody places. And granted, this one perhaps doesn't work for that. But number one, if you need everything, you should spend the majority of your money on modifiers. Modifiers make more of a difference. Modifiers like stuff. This here, my softbox, this is a cheap crap one, which kind of ruins my point. But modifiers are the most important thing to spend money on. My photography modifiers, not my YouTube ones, are very expensive. They are the best you can buy, the best money can buy. They matter the most. And I know this because I've put different quality of lights behind the same modifier. Doesn't make much difference. The modifier is the top. But closely behind that is the light. Does make a small difference. It does make a bit of a difference. The light source does matter. Now, bare bulb, it matters more, but if you're putting it through a softbox, the softbox has a bigger impact than the actual light source. But the second most important thing to spend money on is light source. Now, lights are expensive. I think mine are 12 grand a pop. I'm not going to spend more than 12 grand on a modifier, but just before someone goes, well, what are you going to do? Buy a £13,000 softbox? No, but you buy the most expensive softbox you can afford. Not necessarily the most expensive softbox there, but if I had, I don't know, 10 grand to spend, I wouldn't save up for the 12 grand light and put a cheap modifier on it, and buy a good modifier and buy a cheaper light. Now, after light source comes lens, and this is where everybody, no matter what you're shooting, this is important. The lens you use matters. The quality of the lens is important. It's not as important as people make it out to be. It's not nowadays. In the 80s, yeah, it mattered. Having that 85 1.2 focused by wire Canon lens, that was blissful on a film body compared to the others. It mattered. Those zoom lenses back then, they sucked. They sucked hard. But nowadays, like the Fuji GFX kit lens, the 45 to 100, whatever it is, that's a banger of a lens. That blows anything from that era out of the water. So it's not as important as it was, but it still matters. Like a Sigma art lens is brilliant and they're cheap, but don't go really cheap. Don't get like variable aperture lenses. Go like a good prime or a good quality zoom lens. The lens matters. And slightly behind the lens is the software. Software really matters. Now, every time I say this, someone gets me in the comments and goes, that's not true, it's not how it works. Well, it might not be how it worked in a technical sense, but in a real world scenario, it is. If you process a raw file through Capture One instead of Lightroom, you get a better result and it's easier. I'm not endorsed by either brands, obviously not Lightroom because I slag them off all the time, but Capture One does a better job. Capture One is great software. I would rather have Capture One and pay for it than Lightroom for free. It's better. Same with DaVinci. DaVinci Resolve over whatever Adobe offers for video, it's better. Software matters. The fifth and least important of the equation is the camera body. And the reason it's the fifth and least relevant one is because anything from 2008 onwards is perfectly good enough. It's really hard to buy a bad camera. Like anything brand new in the shops is more than enough. Anything secondhand made after 2008 that's full frame or more is more than enough. And probably 2015 crop sensor or more is more than enough. You don't need to spend that much money on a camera body nowadays. £300 will get you into shooting ad campaigns nationally. However, what tends to happen is people spend most of their money on the body, a bit less on the lens, even less on the lighting, modifies whatever the cheapest they can get to do what they think it does. I see some awfully cheap parabolics not doing anything parabolic out there, and then just get Adobe Lightroom. Seems strange because it's not the way you should be doing it, but it is the way that people do it, and it's very hard. And the reason it happens, the reason people do this, is because a camera body has sexy marketing software, has sexy things to tell you about, sexy specifications. You don't really get the specifications from a modifier. It's not as easy to sell, is it? How do you sell a better modifier? It's softer, well, it must just be bigger. It's, you know, it's hard to sell, but the more you spend on a modifier, the better your image will be compared to any other of these things. And of course, some of them are more expensive than the modifier, I get it, but it's all relative within that particular item's array of stuffs. Anyway, I hope this is useful to somebody. I'm sure you'll all ignore it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.